You just go and have a conversation, sister, just like you just did over there. You were talking to me and told me about baby girl right here, okay? And I'm just gonna prompt you, you have a conversation, okay?
On you, Andrea.
Okay? 1, 2, 3. Can you tell us your names and how much time did you serve in prison?
My name is Katrina Batiste, and I have served 20 years incarcerated.
My name is Virginia Douglas, and I served 17 and a half years in federal prison.
Virginia, you really were moved by this young sister's story. Why did it touch you so much to hear the age that she was sent to prison and the number of years that she had to serve before she could sit with you today?
First of all, she was a baby going to prison, okay? She was a baby, 19 years old, being locked up into a prison for 20 years. A baby that left a baby. Her brains wasn't even developed at 19 years old. You know, she didn't even stand a fair chance. This system is so corrupt. It touched my heart because I spent 17 and a half years in federal prison, and I left behind my babies, you know, and it's just so touching to know that a system would just take a young girl like this and just lock her up for 20 years. What could she have done to be locked up for 20 years? How can the system have helped her, and how could it have rehabilitated her? I had a conversation with her, and the system did nothing but created harm. It didn't help her in no way. We have to have an automated than prison. We have to change this system. This is horrifying, and that's why it touched my heart. So.
And tell us about your experience going into incarceration and expecting your child. And if you could repeat, kind of, you say something that gives people listening an idea of what I just asked you.
It was a shocker. Being 19, hitting 20, going into Cook County Jail in Chicago, Illinois. Only thing I was labeled as was a murderer. Nobody ever looked at as I'm a young Black African American woman who didn't have any knowledge of being locked up, Mirandaized, or anything of the justice system. I was just labeled as a murderer. When I was in the police station, I didn't even get a chance to use the bathroom. They gave me a garbage can and some napkins. And when I got to Cook County Jail, I smelled so bad because I wasn't even able to use a restroom. My case was all over the news. I was embarrassed. I didn't even know how to coincide with what was going on because everything was going so fast, and you're expected to know what's going on and be within what's going on, and you don't know. There's no one there to explain what's going on. If you don't sign here, I was told that my baby was going to be taken away in DCFS. They coerced me into signing a statement that I didn't even know what a confessional statement was. I didn't have no idea of what was going on. Being pregnant, I caught pneumonia in Cook County Jail. No one helped me. They just told me I was just supposed to die because my foster mother was killed. My foster mother was killed by my son's father. And they looked at me as I set it up, and the whole key line was because of inheritance. That was the thing that was labeled to me, and that was my title, and that was how I was looked at. It wasn't nothing more but just that. So as I'm sick, I was as thin as this little pole that's right here. That's how thin I was because they wouldn't give me any type of aid. So it was a girl that recognized me from going to high school with her, and she went and got the nurse and said, "Hey, this lady is sick." And the lady came and she said, "Hey, get her out of here. She's pregnant." They had to take me to another part of the jail, which is called 3 East. I was dehydrated, and I almost lost my son because they didn't want to tend to me. But the lady, she helped me. She helped me come back, and I was able to get on my feet. And you never know that women that are locked up inside become your family. When you don't get that visit, when you don't get that phone call, when you can't make commissary, when you just feeling alone, this is your family. And these women who I've known all these years, this is what helped me get to where I am today. That's where my strength came from. That's where my courage came from, because all in the side of my head was, I didn't kill my foster mother. I didn't do this. So how am I being locked up and getting sentenced to 23 years for something that I didn't do? I didn't understand it.
Talk about the fact that you were pregnant. You were expecting, so you had not delivered your child before, and then you did deliver your son while you were in jail awaiting to be sentenced. What was that experience like?
I'm traumatized to this day. I see children and I would love to have one, but the experience I went through, I'm traumatized behind it. I was shackled with both of my hands and my left leg. I'll never forget it. I had this leg here was out. I had a male CO sitting right in front of me as I was giving birth. Nothing was shielded down. He's sitting there, he's eating popcorn as I'm giving birth to my son. So as he's on his phone making jokes about the situation, the doctor is telling me to push. So I'm just like, you can't say anything because this is, you're locked up. You're an inmate. You have no rights, no nothing. Either you do this or nothing happens at all. So I didn't understand why a male CO was sitting there watching as my vagina is out and there's nothing, and he's on his phone just making jokes about the situation. After I had my son, I had an epidural, and you're supposed to lay there for a little bit. They made me get up. My legs are like jelly, so I fell and hit the floor. So now my stitches are busted and there's just blood everywhere. So now the doctors come back in. I had to get re-stitched, and they're mad, cussing out everybody's in the room because they're not understanding, like, why is she up walking? So I had my son, and I was threatened by the state's attorney. I was threatened that if I named my son after my son's father, I was going to get life in prison. So I had to think what to name him. So before I even had him, I had my friends like sitting around. We're trying to figure out how to name this little boy, because what am I supposed to name him? I'm a foster kid. I don't know my biological parents, so what am I supposed to do? So now I'm trying to make sure I can get my life back, because who wants to do life in prison over a name? A name. So I named him off a little boy. It's called All of Us. His name was Kamani. I named my son Kamani. I looked it up. It means spiritual closeness to God. And I'm a strong believer in my faith. And every day I look at my son, that's my strength. Because he has no idea what I went through, so he can become what he is now in this world. It was a horrible experience. Some days I don't like talking about it because it's very traumatizing, and I don't wish that on any woman that is pregnant, being locked up either in prison or in jail. And it's just horrible. Like, people don't really know what goes on inside of jails and prison. They just think like, oh, they're just in there lollygagging. No, they have no idea the treatment, the abuse that we go through mentally, spiritually, and physically inside jails and prisons.
Virginia, you as well have been separated for almost 2 decades from your children. When you hear younger women who are just coming home, share their story, what does it do to you? What does it stir up in you? What does it cause you to want to do?
It caused me to want to fight harder, because It's horrible being inside, behind the walls, locked up in a cage
Sorry,
like that.
you're gonna have to repeat a little bit of what she said that makes you wanna fight harder.
When,
So she said.
when you hear, so you say, to say,
When I-
when I hear
stories like her.
When I hear stories like Trina's and all other young women that have been behind the prison bars and have been locked up in cages, you know, it totally breaks my heart because I know I've been there. I have experienced that same feel and I've experienced that same treatment, leaving your babies behind, you know, going into that system and leaving your young kids behind. You know, I went in and I left my 7-month-old baby behind, you know. I left all my children, my grandchildren I left behind, and when I came home, they were all grown. They grew up in the prison system. They grew up in the prison visiting room, you know, and it's just heartbreaking to know sisters like Trina and other young ladies. See, Trina was 19 when she went inside. That's a heartbreaker right there. You know, she was 19 years old and pregnant, so she didn't even get a chance to spend any time with her child. You know, how would anybody feel for a person like her? And then she didn't even have a chance to say whether, they didn't even have a chance to even find out whether she was innocent or guilty. You know, you're just guilty, and that's it. You know, and leaving your child behind, it causes trauma to yourself. Most of all, it causes trauma to your family. It caused trauma to the babies that you left behind with no parents to raise them. You know, and like she said, then they threaten you to take away your children. You'll never see your children again. You know, that's a lot to go to sleep on every day. That was the hardest part of my bed, is being separated from my family and my children.
in closing, what is a message that both of you would like to make sure that the sisters inside and sisters who are coming home know? What is that message? In the world, what do you want the world to know about the work that we do to end incarceration of women and girls? What do you want to say?
I can start that one. I would say, for the message I would want for the sisters inside, for the sisters that's coming home, for the world to know, first of all, for the sisters inside, I want them to know that you are not alone. The National Council for Incarcerated and Formerly Incarcerated Women and Girls, we are here for you. We are here fighting for you, and we're going to continue fighting for you, because there's nothing about us without us. And we start from the inside of the prison to the out. So the sisters that's inside the prisons, that's behind these cages, know that we're out here on the ground every day fighting for them and their freedom, fighting to change these laws, fighting to get them out, fighting to get them clemency, and fighting to get them free. For the sisters that's coming home, know that we have open doors. We have open doors for them to come right through. They don't have to go back to prison. We have reimagined communities where we're going to put them back into their communities, and their communities is going to grab them and take care of them. And we want the resources. We're fighting for those resources to go back into the community, so our sisters that's coming home don't have to go back into the prisons. The world to know, our sisters that's out here right now that have never been into that system yet, to know that we are doing Reimagined Community to put the resources in your community so that you can be able to get the things you want, the things you need to survive and strive and survive in your neighborhood, so that you don't have to go into them sisters. So we stopping them from going in, we catching them when they coming out, and the ones that are on the inside, we're letting them know that you're not alone, that we're here to fight for you.
Trina, your last statement, let me know what you want those sisters. You just came home.
Yeah.
You're not fully free. You're still in the middle.
Yeah.
Well, what do you left sisters behind?
Yeah.
What do you want them to know?
I was incarcerated at Logan Correctional Center in Lincoln, Illinois, and them and just for the women all over the world, you're not forgotten. Don't settle. Fight. Just because that's what it says in black and white, that's not what God says. Pray. Do what you need to do. You have families waiting on you. You have children waiting on you. You owe it to them. Fight. You have to fight. I fought for 20 years, and the fight is still not over. I have friends in there that the fight is on. Hashtag Team Freedom, that's what it is. And that's what we're about. And this is just the middle of the story. Our story still haven't been told yet. So just know, you guys are not forgotten, and to fight and let God have the last say so. That's what matters and that's what counts.
Free her.
Free her. Thank you.
You're welcome.